Top boxing news.
Ow! Okay, we'll start with this. It appears that April Hunter will be returning to action on the undercard of Savannah Marshall versus Femke Hermans April 2nd by way of Sky and Boxer. This is going to be her first fight since having suffered her first professional loss to Kirsty Babington. She's going to be taking on an opponent that has yet to be announced. Don't know who.
Don't know if it's Kirsty. Don't know if it's going to be somebody else.
But the sooner April gets herself back out there and gets herself back in the winner's bracket, the better. Having suffered that loss so early in her career could be a blessing in disguise.
It could.
Forcing her to improve.
It's not the worst thing in the world.
It's not the kind of loss the ways I think she can't bounce back. It's not the kind of loss she can't bounce back from. Some losses are more psychologically taxing than others, depending on the circumstances and the aesthetic of the fight, where the fighter was in their career when the loss took place. This loss having happened so early in April's career, it's not...
No, it's not the worst thing in the world.
April Hunter campaigns in the welterweight division where Jessica McCaskill holds all the marbles, all of the alphabet titles, the Ring Magazine title included. And so long as that's the case, so long as that's the situation, any aspiring welterweight aspiring to fight for an alphabet title to one day crown themselves as a champion, they're going to have to see Jessica McCaskill until further notice. Now, I don't think that April's on the cusp of fighting for a world title just yet, but if the situation at 147 pounds doesn't change, that is an eventuality. I think the most important thing for April Hunter is to get back out there and get back out there in a jiffy to get herself back in the winner's bracket. She could use a busy schedule of activity because she doesn't come from a very deep amateur background. She's not an Olympian. She's learning on the job, garnering experience as a professional. Thus, the more times she gets out there in the year of 2022, the better. So hopefully by the end of the year, or the beginning of next year, she might be ready to fight for a world title. This is all set to go down April 2nd on the undercard of Savannah Marshall versus Femke Hermans. Also on that card, we're going to see unbeaten Albanian king Florian Marku, one of Frank Warren's old boys, Nathan Gorman.
He's going to be boxing on that undercard as well.
This stable of fighters we're seeing by way of Sky and Boxer, they're not yet marquee attractions. They're not yet big names, but with time and attention, they could become Eddie Hearn's biggest competition over there in the United Kingdom.
Because, if nothing else, Sky Sports is a very big platform.
A platform that the boxing fans over there in the United Kingdom are already familiar with. Thus, there's no need to introduce themselves to that market the way that DAZN has had to.
The numbers are in for that Khan versus Brook pay-per-view.
According to Umar from IFL TV, Adam Smith just revealed that Khan versus Brook did over 500,000 buys on Sky Sports box office, and those are very good numbers, because you have to consider that that was a non-title fight involving two fighters that are widely perceived as being past their best.
Natasha Jonas fought on that card.
Knocked out Chris Namis and became the WBO's junior middleweight champion. What I see in Sky Sports and Boxer is the ability to become Eddie Hearn's biggest competition, his biggest adversary for the heart and soul of the United Kingdom's boxing community, those boxing fans. They have a young stable, a very young stable, some familiar faces, some more familiar than others, like Chris Eubank Jr., Savannah Marshall, Natasha Jonas,
Huey Fury, Nathan Gorman.
I think about the cards they're putting on. I think about how this pay-per-view performed under these circumstances. Two fighters that are past their prime, past their best days. It's not even a world title fight, yet the tickets sold out for it minutes after going on sale on pay-per-view. It brought in a little over 500,000 buys. That's the level that they're operating at now. Just imagine.
That's not bad. Could you get two guys that are past their prime to move 500,000 pay-per-view buys here?
I understand that the price point in America is a lot more expensive than the price point in the United Kingdom, but cut that number in half. Could you get 250,000?
For that.
250,000 for two guys that are past their best for a non-title fight that was widely perceived as being long overdue, perhaps even past the sell-by date.
It's a pretty good fucking number.
I'm just giving it to you straight. It's the only way I know how to give it to you. And when I see what Ben Shalom and Adam Smith and the people over there at Sky and Boxer are doing, I see a situation to where they could very well become Eddie Hearn's biggest competition, his greatest adversary for the heart and soul of the boxing scene amongst those boxing fans over there in the United Kingdom. Moving on, in lieu of the kickoff press conference for what is to be Fury versus Whyte in their WBC heavyweight title fight, Tyson Fury has now claimed that he will retire after the Dillian Whyte fight. This is the final fight of my career. I'm retiring after this. $150 million in the bank, healthy, young. I'm going to buy a massive yacht abroad. I'm retiring. I'm out. This is my final fight. I'm done. Should we take Tyson Fury seriously?
Does anybody?
Double-edged sword. There is reason enough to believe that Tyson Fury could very well walk away from the sport after this fight, given what he stands to make from it and what he's already made from the previous Deontay Wilder fights he's had in his career. All the money he's amassed so far. I mean, there is reason enough to believe that Tyson Fury could walk away from the sport altogether after this fight, because I told you guys a million times.
I have.
Becoming this division's undisputed champion, holding all those alphabet titles simultaneously at the same time, as opposed to how Tyson Fury held them in different periods of his career, not all at once. It don't mean to Tyson Fury what it might mean to Usyk, what it might mean to Anthony Joshua. So there's reason enough to believe that maybe he's serious, though at the same time, this is Tyson Fury we're talking about.
You're gonna take this guy at his word.
It's a double-edged sword, it is. I mean, right now, the only other heavyweight champion in today's heavyweight division, Alexander Usyk, he's in a war-torn country, under a ban that prohibits men ages 18 to 60 from leaving the country. Who knows how all of that's going to turn out, and who knows when he's going to become available to fight. Not just fight Anthony Joshua, but Tyson Fury.
Yeah, Fury's made a lot of money.
And I told you, I don't think he'll stand for ceremony. I don't think it means to Tyson Fury, holding all those alphabet titles at the same time, simultaneously, effectively becoming this division's undisputed champion. I don't think it means to Fury what it means to Usyk, what it meant to Anthony Joshua, what it still means.
There could be some truth to what he's saying.
Or it could just be more of Tyson Fury's patented brand of bullshit. This is not a guy who you can take at his word.
Did you hear what he said about Usyk joining the war in Ukraine?
I wanted to get your view on the fact that Vitaly and Vladimir Klitschko and your fellow heavyweight world champion Alexander Usyk going back to their country to enlist and sign up and halt the invasion from Putin at the moment. I just wondered what your thoughts were for those guys that they want to protect their own country.
Fantastic, I'll be the first one to join up if England get involved, or America. I'll be first in line for the job. My dad will as well, and all the boys will all be signing up to defend. So that's what I got to say. I think if you're from that country, living there, defend her. Love your woman and fight for your country. That's what I say.
And everybody.
Riveting! Albeit hollow, albeit borrowed. I mean, that's literally the line from Troy.
Troy with Brad Pitt and Eric Bana.
He stole Hector's line.
What do you think? He was inspired in the moment? That's where he got that from.
You'll excuse me for saying so, but I don't actually believe that Tyson Fury would be the first to sign up for a full-scale war when he literally watched his old buddy,
His dad.
Billy Joe Saunders. He watched security tackle Billy Joe Saunders' dad at the Canelo Alvarez versus Billy Joe Saunders fight, and Tyson Fury didn't do fuck all about it.
It was this sport mentality then.
I thought you and Billy Joe Saunders was friends. I thought that's your buddy. You're gonna let these guys tackle your buddy's old man? You're not gonna do nothing about it? You're Tyson Fury. You're a Spartan.
Yeah, you're full of shit, and I don't believe you.
Old Fish Eyes Frank Warren has revealed that Wembley Stadium will now be set up for a new maximum capacity of just under 100,000 for Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte on April 23rd, and so could break the 90,000 British boxing attendance record currently held by Anthony Joshua versus Vladimir Klitschko. It's safe to say that Frank Warren and Bob Arum, they've got a lot riding on this fight. They've got a lot riding on this thing.
There's one fundamental problem.
Dillian Whyte's not helping you sell it. And how many more cringe-worthy press conferences just like this one?
Tyson Fury said it's the Tyson Fury show.
Well, that's good, but Dillian's not fulfilling his role as your supporting actor. He is the other half of this fight after all, and he's not playing your games. Him not being there is an act of defiance that you are powerless.
Not a goddamn fucking thing you can do about it.
Incredible. that Tyson Fury's core fans have gone from diminishing Dillian Whyte, everything he's done so far, his marquee value, and what he deserves as a fighter for what he brings to the table, to now pleading.
They're the only ones that are mad he didn't show up.
It really is only Tyson Fury's faction of fans and the Tyson Fury side of things overall that are upset Dillian isn't partaking in these festivities. He's not helping to sell this fight. He's not partaking in its promotion, and why the fuck would he?
You get what you pay for.
That's the game that Frank Warren and Bob Arum wanted to play, and this is the end result.
Oh, he's the greatest showman on earth? Let him sell the fight.
I don't know that Tyson Fury himself is rattled by all of this, but we know that Frank Warren is.
Have you ever heard, you've been around boxing a while now, have you ever heard one of the participants not showing up for the press conference? Have you ever heard one of the participants saying you can't use their photo on the poster?
This is the first time that I've heard of it during my 8 years.
You know, and moaning about the 20%. Usyk got 20% when he fought Joshua and he showed up for the press conference. Tyson, when he fought Klitschko, didn't get 20% and showed up for the press conferences and worked. Everyone does it. This is nonsense.
Now call me crazy, but it sounds a lot like Frank Warren, old fish eyes. He would have preferred that Dillian help them sell this fight. It sounds a lot like Frank Warren is upset that Dillian Whyte...
What do you need Dillian Whyte for? You've got Tyson Fury, the greatest showman on earth.
Tommy Fury, Tyson Fury's little brother. He said nobody's coming to see Dillian Whyte anyway, so if that's how you feel about it...
What the hell's Frank Warren bellyaching about?
Tell you the truth, I don't have much stock in any of Tyson Fury's talk of retiring after this fight. He might retire, he might not. Who really knows with that guy? But looks to me like Dillian Whyte has these guys rattled without doing much at all. He's got these guys rattled because he's not playing their game. He's not playing by their rules. Tyson Fury seems to reserve the right to do whatever he wants to do. He marches to the beat of his own drum, and that's what Dillian Whyte is doing. Now, I don't know how much that bothers Tyson Fury or how much that doesn't bother Tyson Fury, though Frank Warren, he seems very much upset about it. And so do Tyson Fury's fans, his core supporters, that are lambasting Dillian Whyte for not showing up to the presser.
Well, I thought this was the Tyson Fury show.
Well, who needs Dillian Whyte, right?
Right.
Frank Warren does, that's who. Frank Warren does, to help sell this fight. Now, make no mistake, the only other fight in the United Kingdom that could be bigger than this one would be Fury versus Joshua. This is the second biggest fight that can happen at this time on UK soil. But in order for it to live up to its potential, you've got to be able to promote it. And Dillian's not going to help you do that.
You colluded with the WBC to give him a shitty split.
Your guy's got the lion's share of the pot, so let your guy do the lion's share of the work, Mr. Greatest Showman on Earth.
What are your thoughts on today, Dillian Whyte not turning up?
I mean, it's his own problem, isn't it? I mean, it's a Tyson Fury show. Nobody's coming to see Dillian Whyte. 100+ thousand that are attending on the night are all there to see Tyson, not Dillian Whyte, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, he's the main man, and best heavyweight in the world. We'll see what happens with that. Regarding your own ongoing boxing career, I've got to be honest, I'll say something to your face. With the Jake Paul fight, I do YouTube videos. I basically, in my opinion, if I was having a fight for that much money, and I've had a few white collar fights because I'm not as good as you, I thought if I was making that much money, I'd have still gone in there even with the injuries. But obviously, I don't want to be two-faced, say it to your face. But obviously, I'm not the one that had the injuries, so obviously, were they just too serious?
Well, if you can find a broken rib, make you some man, and bacterial chest infection, I'll leave it at that.
You think Jake Paul's a boxer?
No, I don't think he's a boxer.
Well, why do you think he can beat Tommy then? Answer the question now. Because you disappoint me, and I looked up to you. I supported you.
I'm just trying to be honest, John.
Honest?
Yeah.
Honest, saying that you took beat a Fury and you pissed.
I'm trying to be honest. I'm not pissed, no, I'm just trying to be honest.
I don't want to talk to you. I'll turn me back on you completely. I don't want to talk to you at all. Get your facts right, get off the job.
Big blowhard John Fury doesn't like. To Carl Frampton, he's not impressed with Tommy Fury. In fact, he gives Jake Paul decent odds to beat Tommy Fury in a boxing match. I mean, I saw Tommy Fury's last two fights, and I gotta be honest with you.
Oh, I see where Carl Frampton's coming from.
Saw the Jordan Grant fight in June of last year, and I think those judges, they were very generous with Tommy Fury. If I do say so myself, very considerate.
I saw him on the undercard of Jake Paul versus Tyrone Woodley 1.
Fighting 0-1 Anthony Taylor, who, ahead of his fight with Tommy, hadn't had a boxing match in something like 3-4 years. Professional record of 0-1. Tommy Fury was boxing a guy that never actually won a boxing match.
Tommy couldn't finish him.
Tommy didn't knock him out. It was a 4-round fight that went 4 rounds. Tommy didn't finish the guy. You can't finish a 0-1 fighter that hasn't boxed professionally in 3 or 4 years. What's gonna happen to you if you fight Jake Paul?
You couldn't finish that guy. You gonna finish Jake Paul?
What is it? The fight wasn't big enough, you weren't inspired, but if it's Jake, it's a bigger fight and you'll rise to the occasion? You need to rise to the occasion with a YouTuber, goddamn YouTuber, and you're supposed to be the serious professional.
Big John Fury can't handle the truth.
This big blowhard John Fury, Carl Frampton, stood on his square, stood his ground, said what he said, and he meant what he said, whether John liked it or not.
When is Tommy gonna resume his very serious professional boxing career?
All he seems to be doing is riding a wave that Jake Paul created on his own, and since then, that's been the focus of his very serious professional boxing career. I mean, when is it going to resume? Why are we still hearing about this? Jake Paul's not boxing right now. What are you doing?
To say that today's press conference went well for the Fury.
To say that today's press conference was in any way a success for Bob Arum, for Frank Warren, for Tyson Fury.
They put them all in a very unflattering light.
Big blowhard John throwing his toys out the pram over another man's opinion. Tommy Fury being put on the spot for bailing on a YouTuber.
Tyson Fury himself and his same old tired shtick.
I don't know how much it bothers Tyson Fury to mend. Tyson Fury the fighter, that Dillian Whyte wasn't there today.
But it does seem to be bothering Frank. He was livid.
And if it really were the way that Tommy Fury says it is, that nobody's coming to see Dillian Whyte anyway, it's Tyson Fury's show. Tyson Fury is what it's all about. If it really were that way, then why would Frank be so disgruntled? Why would he be?
What's he so mad about? What difference does it make if Dillian is there?
I told you guys from the very beginning that Bob Arum and Frank Warren undermining Dillian Whyte's marquee value in the United Kingdom, that was a misstep. That was a mistake. It takes 2 guys to tango, and this could be a very big fight. It could be.
Yeah, if it's promoted properly, but now you can't do that.
Tyson Fury's handlers didn't want to admit it then, but they're feeling it now. Given the amount of money they spent to keep the rights for this fight, keep the fight on their side of things, something like $41 million.
They're the ones that need the fight to do well, not Dillian.
They're the ones that desperately need this fight to break even, given the amount of money they spent to keep the rights for this fight, to keep the fight on their side of things. They had to make sure that they outbid Eddie Hearn, so they had to bid aggressively, and they did that. They won that purse bid, but now it's up to them to sell this thing.
You wanted it, you got it.
Do your job.